Dr. Cahn? Is it okay?
Testing, testing, testing. This is English channel. Testing.
はい、それでは大変長らくお待たせいたしました。
Thank you very much for waiting. We would like to start the 2011 Kyoto Prize Laureate press conference. I am Hara from the Inamori Foundation, serving as the MC. Now we would like to introduce the participants. To the left, Osaka Bioscience Research Director, Dr. Shigetada Nakanishi, Chair of the Kyoto Prize Executive Committee, and the laureates of the Kyoto Prize, Dr. John Werner Cahn, the laureate of the Kyoto Prize in Advanced Technology, and Dr. Rashid Alievich Sunyaev, the laureate of the Kyoto Prize in the Basic Sciences, and the laureate in the Arts and Philosophy, Mr. Bando, Tamasaburo Bando, and the chair of the Kyoto Prize Committee, in the Advanced Technology, the chair of the Kyoto Prize Committee, the Fukuoka Women's College Director Chisato Kajiyama, and the chair of the Kyoto Prize Committee in Basic Sciences, the Professor Emeritus of Kyoto University, Dr. Fumitaka Sato, and the chair of the Kyoto Prize Committee in Arts and Philosophy, Director of Ohara Art Museum, the Dr. Shuji Takashina. And we would like to ask three laureates to express their impression and their feeling after receiving the prize. Concerning the question, please wait for the first round of remarks by the laureate. As for the picture taking, we take time for the picture taking at the end of this conference. Dr. Cahn, could you share with us your impression, feeling?
The question is what? Could you repeat the question, please?
Dr. Cahn.
Well, I'm extraordinarily grateful for this totally unexpected event. It came as a complete surprise, and I feel most honored and very humble to be joining this long list of very distinguished scientists and artists.
Thank you very much. Dr. Sunyaev, please.
I can confirm that this prize is came very unexpected, but now I can say following that it is a great honor to receive the prize, which named after Kyoto. Kyoto is great cultural center, it had great history, and for me it's especially important because I know the name of this city from my childhood. I was very interested in the history of Middle Ages, history of the East, and Kyoto, it was very interesting for a child to read. I was not very childish. It was 12, 13 years. So when I was 12, 13 years old, I was reading a lot about Kyoto. Therefore, I am very honored to be here in this great city and to be awarded with the prize named after it. Second thing which I wanted to tell you is that every prize becoming great, and when you see the list of the people who were awarded before you, And in the long list of laureates in the different fields, I found 3 names of astronomers. This is the name of Chishiro Hayashi. One of first papers which I read about cosmology was the paper of Hayashi. This was in 1965. And this is great man with great achievements in our science. Then these were Jan Oort and Eugene Parker, people whom I knew personally, and I admire them and their contribution to science. And I know several other people who got this prize, and all of them are really great scientists. Just to be in the same list with them, it's unbelievable honor.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Can we invite Mr. Bando? It is a great the honor and the unexpected gratitude to receive this distinguished prize of the Kyoto Prize. I felt nervous throughout the very wonderful presentation ceremony, and I feel somewhat relaxed. In the arts of history, I met all the past laureates like Peter Brook and Bejar, except for Mr. Kurokawa. I'm very happy to be the member of the list, and I believe I have to renew my efforts to develop the future artist as well. Thank you very much.
それでは引き続き質疑応答の方に移りたいと思います。
Now we would like to move on to the questions to be taken up. If you have questions, please raise your hand. Microphone will be given to you, so please identify yourself first. And we have the next program. We have limited time. Therefore, only one question for one person. With your permission, please. Now, open the floor. I'm Kato, freelance journalist. Dr. Werner Cahn, I have question. In your remarks, your parents became refugees. So during the wartime, your family had the bitter experience. Do you think your parents' bitter experience is that conveyed to you through the story of parents?
I was 5 years old when I became a refugee, and I was too young to understand what the danger to my parents. And for 6 years we were in Holland and Belgium and Italy. And then in 1939 we came to the United States. I knew terrible things were happening because occasionally other refugees would come to my parents' house after they escaped. But my family was unscathed. My father got warning in 1933, within a few weeks of the Nazis taking power, that he was going to be arrested. And he just packed his family into the car and went to Belgium. And so I had a very happy childhood. It was my parents did not scare me. I lived a normal life, but I learned 4 different languages before I was 11. And but it was a very interesting and happy childhood, and I was not a refugee in any sense of being deprived. There was danger, but it didn't affect me.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you. You're welcome. Next question. Now, gentleman on the left. I'm Sakakibara from Mainichi newspaper. At the announcement or press release, this is the question to Tamasaburo-san. You said you were from the charity program for the victims of earthquake. In Japan, many people got stricken with the great earthquake. Many people are still suffering from difficulties, but you are involved in performing art. From that position of artist, what can you do? What are you willing to do as an artist? Well, currently, my idea is running the charity program, and we are carrying donation to each of the suffering regions. In the future, we want to visit those regions. We want to encourage people so that they can enjoy the theater. Usually, after the big disaster, 6 months later, usually that has been forgotten. For example, nuclear power accidents is the very dangerous one. We shouldn't forget. And we want to give them the long-term support. And we may end up with have larger negative impact. I'm just artist, but through my dedicated area, I want to support the people. Thank you. Anybody else? Gentleman in front. I'm Higashiyama from Asahi newspaper. Question to Dr. Sunyaev. (2006) and this year, you should have been selected as a Nobel Prize winner. That's not surprise at all. Your analysis or your observation with the new findings based on your theory, we have much more dark matters, unknown things. So as you said, we come up with more questions now. So when we think about the mankind, human beings, the more we know, the more unknown things are coming. So when we face in this space, do you think in the history of mankind in the future, can we completely understand the universe?
It is an extremely complicated question which you are asking. I can tell you that I hope that within next 20, 30 years we will be knowing practically everything, all key things about observable universe. Universes which is within our horizon, but as it is today. But we are scientists, and all people on the earth, they are interested in much more fundamental question. What is the future? What will be with our universe later? And what is behind the horizon? What is there where we cannot get today any information at all? Are there the same laws of physics? You understand me? It is so complicated. I don't think that during my life this question will be solved. And I don't know would be solved. Anytime you will go further and further. In addition, obviously, just the nature of our laws, why they are of this type, why our universe is so great for us. Because it is, if we will change physical laws a little, it's very easy to make such situations that it is impossible to create atoms and world will be completely different. Why our world is so good. And physicists and astronomers, they're thinking about this. And it will be great if we will find solution. But it's great fundamental problem, and I can tell you that thousands of people in all the world are working on these problems. And I can tell you that Japan is one of the leading countries in this type of research.
はい、どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. If you have more questions, please. Gentleman in front. I'm Imazu from Yomiuri newspaper. Again, Dr. Sunyaev. Dr. Cahn said in his childhood he learned 4 languages in his childhood. Dr. Sunyaev, I think you have learned a lot of languages in your childhood. How many languages can you speak? That's first question. And you haven't observed the cosmic thing. However, do you often look up the night sky? So those are the questions.
Yes, you're completely right. My grandparents and my parents also were refugees because after, in 1930, due to the, general politics in Russia, my grandparents, families of my both grandparents were left their places. It was very difficult time in Soviet Union when due to the collectivization and so on, a lot of people were forced to leave their places. Family of my paternal grandfather was sent to Siberia, to the Shilka River, its tribute of Amur, and to my aunts, 12 and 14 years old, died there in the camp for people who were forced to cut trees there. Family of my grandmother, they left like family of my grandfather from mother's side were, as Dr. Cahn told us, informed by friends several days early and left before. After they all came finally to Central Asia, to where living family of grandfather from father's side was living in Tashkent, and family of my mother from mother's side, they were living in vicinity because even in Tashkent they were in the list for arrest. And I grew up in the city. And I remember very well how I was sent from Tashkent to the home of my grandfather and grandfather in Kazakhstan. I was 5 years old, and in 1 year there I completely forgot Russian and was speaking only Tatar language, which is my native language. I am Tatar. And then I learned very well Kazakh language, Kazakhstan, great country also on the Silk River, on the Silk Road. I knew at that time as a child Uzbeki, obviously, and I was very impressed that when I was in Xinjiang, in the western China, in Kashgar, and in other places, I discovered that people there are speaking practically language of my grandmothers. I was translating. I was invited to the meeting of National Academy of United States National Academy of Sciences together with Chinese Academy of Sciences, and I was serving as interpreter for my colleagues from United States, Germany, and so on, because I understood easily language of the local people. But then, when I was 17, I left for Moscow. I knew, as child, also very well German language. And then it was necessary for me to study English, because English is the broken English is international language of scientists. If you everywhere in Japan or in China or in United States, in Canada, in Australia, everywhere in Russia, we are using English language to understand each other. But this is broken English. Please excuse me. I know several other languages, but not so well as this. And I can tell you that knowing languages, it helps you enormously because you also understand the soul of people. And I told you that in the age 5 to 6, I spent 1 year in Kazakhstan. I was with my grandparents. And from that time, every time when I hear Kazakh songs, they are a little similar to Japanese also. But when I hear this song, something is occurring with me. Even I never more was in Kazakhstan for a long time. And I can tell you also that I like the landscape. When I come to semi-desert landscape, hilly landscape, I see, oh, it's like Kazakhstan. And I can tell you, it's time to finish. I'm too long. But it is people everywhere are very kind and nice people. And it is great even that refugees, families of refugees, as Dr. Cahn told you, if you are coming and if you are friendly with local people, it is possible to survive. And I have a lot of Uzbeki friends. And when I came to Moscow, I got a lot of friends in Moscow. Now I am working part of my time in Germany, and I have also a lot of German friends. And I'm happy that even in Kyoto here, I have friends. It's very important for our lives.
はい、素晴らしいお話どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much for wonderful remarks.
朝日新聞の辻と申します。
Tsuji from Asahi Shimbun. I have a question to Dr. Cahn. The Nobel laureate for this year is for the discovery of the quasi crystal. When Dr. Schuchtman was at the NIB, his paper were reviewed by 4 researchers, including yourself, including a French scholar, and the 4 researchers made a contribution in the discovery of the quasi crystals. So 4 researchers who jointly published the paper and announced the result. What kind of collaboration existed among the 4 researchers, including yourself, who made a contribution to the discovery of quasi-crystals?
Speak about myself. In 1971 to 72, I was fortunate enough to be a visiting professor in Israel at the Israel Institute of Technology, and Dan Shechtman was at that time in his last year of graduate school. 72 is the year he got his PhD, and I was very impressed with him. And 10 years later, I was invited back for a short visiting professorship of about 3 months. And he was then in his 6th year of being a lecturer at the university, and he would have a sabbatical, 2-year sabbatical, 81 to 83. And we happened to have a great need for an electron microscopist. We were doing a lot of work with rapid solidification of alloys in order to create new crystal structures and not give the metal enough time to find the equilibrium, but to find some other crystal structure. And so we had quite a team, and he was lucky enough to explore aluminum manganese. And in aluminum manganese, there were half a dozen different crystal structures that he made. And then one day he discovered this very strongly diffracting I'm sorry, I'm using a technical language here, but the material behaved very strongly like a crystal. It was the planes in the material will scatter the electrons going through. So this nodule, this particle, looked like a crystal. The electrons couldn't get through. And then he took a diffraction pattern to see what symmetry it had, and it had a forbidden symmetry. One that was not consistent with an idea that had been proposed in 1815. So for 160 years, every crystal that had been found had characteristics of something periodic. That is, the units repeat themselves over and over again. It's like a tiling, like on this floor, the units repeat. But you cannot have a five-fold axis and with this kind of symmetry. So this was contrary to the law of crystallography that everybody believed was true. It turned out not to be a law of crystallography. It turned out to be a common a common occurrence, because for 160 years people had never reported anything other than periodic crystals that fit the laws of crystallography. And here was an exception. It turned out that other people afterwards had found such exceptions also, but they simply had not believed that they were seeing what they were seeing. And Dr. Shechtman insisted that this is what he was seeing. I was not in the habit of becoming a co-author on papers in my group, but he was having trouble getting it published, and so I then wrote the paper that was published, I emphasized what an experiment can do. An experiment can show that an idea is wrong. An experiment can only be consistent with an idea. It does not prove an idea. So I removed everything in Dr. Shechtman's experiment, but the things which showed that here was something against what people thought was the law of crystallography. Now, that was my contribution. Ilan Blech made a model, which we did not put in our article, because I felt that if we put a model into our article, people would seize upon this model and say this model is wrong, this idea is wrong. What was strong with that experiment was that the existing law of crystallography was inadequate, and I didn't want to put in a new law. I didn't want to make a suggestion about what it might be. I just wanted to use the data to disprove what people had believed. And Denis Gratias happened to be at NIST at the time, and he is an excellent crystallographer, and he completely changed the direction of his research. His lifetime research became quasi-crystals, and he made some very good contributions to that short article. But it was 4 authors, and the only important one was Dan Shechtman, so it was completely correct that the Nobel Prize went to him alone. Does that answer the question? The others had minor roles, including myself. Do itashimashite.
はい。で、次の質問、最後とさせていただき、
Next is the last question. Gentleman in front. I'm a journalist from China to Tamasaburo-san. In Nastasha or Peony Pavilion were performed in international arena. Into the future, in terms of the international exchange, what is your idea for your future activity? So far, in a good sense, I didn't force myself or other people to move. Rather, always I was responding to the suggestion, invitation. But in the case of the Peony Pavilion, Meilafan was my heroic person, and we wanted to see the sojo. And I just wanted to learn, but Kongu opera people said that why don't you do it? And I participated. Mushu Maurice Bejar, choreographer, or Andrzej Wajda, directors, my encounterment was the same. Dostoevsky's world is the idea, why don't you do it? So always I was invited. When I try to keep as my principle is that don't try to make myself, I just humbly carry myself into that creative space. By so doing, I just performed as I were. Into the future, from different genres of people, whenever I receive the initiative or proposal, as much as possible, I would like to respond to it. Compared with the younger days, 40s or the 30s, I was much younger, and now I'm near 60, and I have no confidence in doing the good performance as before. However, in the onnagata, that means for the dancing, that the female role performed by actor is very rare in Okinawa. So we would like to revive that tradition if that's possible. Thank you. You may have other questions, but it's time to close the press conference. Now, we would like to move on to the picture taking for journalists. So laureates, if you don't know, could you please come to the front side of the stage? Cameraman, please come forward.
はい、そろそろ写真撮影の方よろしいでしょうか。
We would like to conclude the photo taking session. Thank you very much. We would like to thank the laureate.
それでは誠に申し訳ございませんが、ここで晩餐会の方に移動いたしますので。
With this, we would like to conclude the press conference as the laureates are going to join the reception. Thank you very much.